I'd like to call the meeting of the Lowell City Council to order. Please join me in the council prayer. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me now in honoring America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Dakota.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Martin. 8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Would my colleagues mind if I had a moment of silence in darkened chambers from the chair? I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Albert Osella, who passed away on October 9th. Mr. Osella is the father of Peter Osella, who's the deputy, now acting superintendent of the National Park Service here in Lowell. In addition to Peter, Mr. Osella leaves another son, Richard, and another son, Albert, along with 3 grandchildren. He was also married for 58 years to his wife, Yvonne, who predeceased him. Mr. Osella owned a pharmacy in Malden for a number of years and was also an accomplished violinist. I met Mr. Osella on many occasions, and he was just a wonderful gentleman, and I know he'll be truly missed by his family and friends. So if we could rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers. May he rest in peace. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We all received a letter on our desk tonight from President of Local 853 Lowell Firefighters, David Keene, and I'm asking for a suspension of the rules to allow Mr. Keene to address the council and the viewing audience at home. Thank you.
First of all, I would like a copy of that letter, but motion by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Mercia to suspend the rules. All those in favor of suspending the rules for the purpose of allowing David Keene to address the council signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Chair recognizes again Councilor Caulfield, just to bring David up to the podium.
Yes, Mr. Keene, before David comes to the podium, I think we all agree, the council and the citizens of this great city, along with Manager Lynch and his administration, that the Lowell Fire Department, we owe them a great deal of thanks for the dedication, professionalism during the fire on Bridge Street Sunday morning on October 10th. They would be the last one to say they're heroes, but we all know the people they saved are calling them heroes. So, Mr. Keene.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Mr. Mayor, councilors, Mr. Manager. You all have a copy of this letter. I'd just like to read it aloud. I address this to the manager. Manager Lentz, let me begin by letting you know that on the morning of 10 October 2010, by 9 a.m., the brothers and sisters of Local 853 Lowell firefighters all returned home after a tour that I dare say the most dangerous and challenging of our careers to date. 2 of our brothers were treated and thankfully released with minor injuries from the hospital. As you have heard and read, the firefighters at the fire scene on Bridge Street took head-on the battle of extinguishing the inferno that confronted us, but also the most dreaded and important aspect of our duty, the rescue of trapped victims, many on the verge of jumping, several over ground ladders, and several more picked off by Tower Ladder 3. As if the mere actions of my brothers and sisters weren't enough, what is more significant is these incredible acts were performed with 9 less firefighters on duty, from 3 frontline fire companies assigned to the first alarm. To the layman, this means that 60% of the closest companies were closed due to budget cuts. We worked that fire with a reduction of personnel of 24%, 1/4 less manpower to take on the numerous tasks encountered simultaneously at this fire. Thankfully, the city is blessed with the bravest and most courageous firefighters in the nation. The closing of companies on a temporary basis has become a tool to cities and towns across the nation. And as a firefighter, I feel like we are often, but not always, alone trying to shine a spotlight on this problem. The practice of brownouts should be immediately reviewed. Now, I may be asked, what is so important about 9 less firefighters at a fire scene? Let me explain what occurred during this fire. While effecting the rescue of a man trapped on the 4th floor with heavy fire and thick black smoke whirling about their heads, 4 firefighters struggled with all the strength they could summon to rescue this man. It was during this time frame they ran out of air and became trapped, almost becoming victims themselves. When the air horn sounded for all to leave the building as it was too dangerous, these men, although trapped and out of air, continued their struggle to save this man. This duty was not abandoned until repeated orders to vacate the building. Fortunately, the bucket of Tower Ladder 3 was within their jumping range. I and the members of Local 853 are thankful to not be attending the funerals of our brothers. I am proud to call these 4 men brothers and friends, but much happy I can enjoy their company at the kitchen table for coffee. They are the reason the practice of closing fire companies must stop. 2 things put out fires: water and manpower. These are the tools we ask for to keep you safe. I consider both precious resources to the residents of Lowell. As a city, we think of ourselves as forward thinkers, what with projects like the Jam Plan, Artist Lost, the Riverwalk, and the like. I propose in the same forward-minded manner you have shown in the past, we become true pioneers and end the unacceptable practice of closing fire stations on a rotating basis. Let's lead the way for other communities to strive for by way of not only expanding business and tax base, but in the humble realm of the fire service. I believe we have successfully worked together in the past as partners, tackling the financial struggles of the city. I believe we can do the same now. To the residents of Lowell, I will leave you with this promise. If you need us, we will be there as always. On your worst day, we will be there. Sincerely, Dave Keene, President, Local 853 Lowell Firefighters. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, David, very much. Before I recognize the city manager, I'd just like to recognize and note that Chief Pitta is in the audience as well. Thank you, Chief, for being here. The chair would like to recognize City Manager Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I want to echo first the sentiments expressed by Councilor Caulfield that the firefighters that night were truly heroic and did an outstanding job in their efforts to save the residents of the property on Bridge Street and put out a very dangerous fire, and they did it without regard for their own safety, and really they're to be commended. I've had an opportunity over the weekend to speak with Mr. Keene regarding this issue, and obviously the chief and I discuss this on a regular basis. It's the reason we moved forward last year to bring on 9 firefighters utilizing federal grant money. These are very difficult times in which we operate. We know that we've reduced the overtime in the fire department. We know that we've reduced the overtime in the head count of our police department. We've made cuts across the city departments in very important areas, and these are the problems that we face now. I committed to Mr. Keene when I spoke to him earlier that this is clearly something that we're concerned about, the amount of coverage that we have. We were very fortunate at this fire that we did have several dozen firefighters on scene between the city and other communities, but response is important, and having the necessary resources and manpower is important to us as we serve the citizens of the city. And working with the chief and with the union, we're optimistic that we can find solutions to some of these problems, and we commit ourselves as an administration to trying to find some way to reduce the amount of company closures that we have and ensuring that we have people on scene at all times to deal with these situations. So I certainly commit that to the council, committed to the people of the city, and certainly to the firefighters, and we'll be coming back to the council with a report on this in the near future.
Thank you. City Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to comment on the devastating fire that took place on Sunday. There are times when I hear comments, and I'm sure you have also, about the job that firefighters and sometimes the police are not very flattering when we hear Sometimes people exaggerate. Sometimes people don't realize the role of public safety workers until we or they need the services. Such was the case on Sunday. I want to acknowledge the tremendous show of teamwork displayed at the Bridge Street fire, the men and women that fight fires, to the police, the American Red Cross workers, the hospital personnel that treat the injured. We can complain all we want, but when the going gets tough, the tough show us what they're all about. And we have professionals through and through in the form of public safety personnel. I'm very, very proud of all that they do. They go above and beyond duty to protect lives. And let's not forget that sometimes lives are not saved. This is the price that these individuals pay, and it preys on their mind and it takes a toll on them. How hard it is to forget when things don't always work out right. And I know that this is their job. I know that they get paid for this, but I couldn't let this meeting go by without publicly voicing my thoughts and my respect for the position and my moment to give thanks to all the involved for the display of teamwork for the good of the city. So I want to publicly say thank you. I know they get paid. I know this is their job, but you don't always hear it. You don't always get good comments until we're the ones that need this service. So thank you very much for all you do to make our city safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Very well said. Anyone else want to be heard on the communication? Motion by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Martin, to accept the communication and place on file. All those in favor of accepting the communication, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Again, on behalf of my colleagues, David and Chief Pitta, I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention, and as the city manager indicated, we will be working with you to resolve the situation. Thank you. Getting back to the regular agenda, minutes of the October 5th meeting for acceptance. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Mendonça, to accept the minutes as presented. All those in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Moving on to the city manager's agenda. Responses to council motions and requests. Does anyone want to be heard? Councilor Mendonça?
Yes, I just wanted to thank the administration for their efforts on the Hudson Rotary Park in meeting with the association and the neighbors and some of the things they're doing to improve the situation. And hopefully we'll continue to monitor the situation there to make sure it improves and does not get any worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the motions? Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, thank you for your response, and Mr. Moses, to my question about the legacy costs. I would like to refer this to the Finance Subcommittee if I can, get some more information.
Motion by Councilor Dakota, second by Councilor Broderick, that the issue be referred to the Finance Subcommittee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Councilor Elliott.
Just on that note, I just wanted to let members know that the manager and I have been communicating to reschedule, or schedule 2 meetings on the Finance Subcommittee. One I believe we're going to schedule on, excuse me, November 2nd, and then there was a meeting that was scheduled earlier this month with the school committee that we're looking at rescheduling on the 16th of November. Is that right, Mr. Manager? So Finance Subcommittee meetings are in process and will be scheduled soon.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Anyone else on the motions and the requests? Hearing none, motion by Councilor Dakota, seconded by Councilor Murphy, to accept the communications placed on file. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item, we have a communication from the city manager. Dear Mayor Milanazzo and members of the council, this is to advise you that I will be attending the ICMA conference in San Jose, California from October 16th to October 21st, 2010. I am requesting that the City Council designate Adam Backey, Assistant City Manager, Division of Planning and Development, Director, as Acting City Manager during the above stated period. Thank you for your anticipated courtesy in this regard. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Motion to accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor of accepting the communication placed on file signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Elliott, that Mr. Backey be appointed acting city manager October 16th through October 21st. Roll call.
Counselor Mendonça?
Yes.
Counselor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement between the City of Lowell and U.S. Wireless Incorporated for a period of 5 years with an option for an additional 4 5-year renewal terms, or for a potential total of 25 years to lease space on 2 specific city-owned properties for cell towers. Whereas the purchasing department issued its request for proposals for leasing of space on specific city-owned property for cell towers, and whereas it is the intention of the City of Lowell Purchasing Department to enter into a no-charge contract agreement for the leasing of city-owned land at 2 locations for cell towers, and whereas U.S. Wireless Incorporated has submitted a proposal to the Purchasing Department in response to the request for proposals, and whereas the first location shall be the Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility, 451 First Street Boulevard, Route 110, Lowell, Duck Island, assessed as 431 First Street, and whereas the second location shall be the City of Lowell Parks Department, 1313 Gorham Street, Lowell 01852, and whereas U.S. Wireless Incorporated submitted a proposal to enter into a lease agreement for a period of 5 years with an option for an additional 4 5-year renewal terms, and or for a potential total of 25 years to lease space on 2 specific city-owned properties for cell towers. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the city manager be and he is hereby authorized to enter into a lease agreement between the City of Lowell and the U.S. Wireless for a period of 5 years with an option for additional 4 5-year renewal terms, or for a potential total of 25 years to lease specific space on 2 specific city-owned properties for cell towers. Such lease payment at Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility, 451 First Street Boulevard, Route 110, Lowell, shall be as follows: monthly base rent, $2,100, escalating percentage 3%, 20% of collected revenues on a monthly basis on the second subtenant on tower, and 10% of collected revenues on a monthly basis on the third subtenant for any additional subtenant above and beyond that subleases on the tower. Such lease payments at the City of Lowell Parks Department, 1313 Gorham Street, shall be as follows: monthly base lease, $2,100, escalation percentage 3%, 20% of collected revenues of a monthly basis on the second subtenant on tower, and 10% of collected revenues on a monthly basis on the third subtenant or any additional subtenant above and beyond that subleases on the tower. Be it further voted, whereas the City Council must authorize the Purchasing Department to proceed under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, in order to lease such property for a period of 5 years with options for additional 4 5-year renewal terms, or for a potential of 25 years, that the lease agreement shall contain other terms and conditions of the city manager deems to be in the best interest of the City of Lowell, that the city manager is further authorized to exercise the 5-year renewable options at his sole discretion. Such options may be exercised by written notice from the city to contractor 30 days prior to expiration of the contract or the anniversary date of the agreement after the initial term, as to whether the contract shall terminate or continue for another option term. The monthly lease price will increase by the escalation percentage of 3%. Second reading by title, if there's no objection. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement between the City of Lowell and U.S. Wireless Incorporated for a period of 5 years with an option for an additional 4 5-year renewal terms, or for a potential total of 25 years to lease space on 2 specific city-owned properties for cell towers. What's the wish of the council? Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and this is definitely revenue for the city. I just have a question on the last paragraph, the very first sentence, that the city manager is further authorized to exercise a 5-year renewable option at his sole discretion. What do you mean by that, Mr. Manager?
Madam Solicitor?
Why wouldn't that come back again to the council for a vote?
Well, the real intent behind this agreement, in terms of the pricing, it's really intended to be a long-term lease. And as such, we still nevertheless have protections in there that if for manager's discretion, we want to end it after a 5-year period, we have the right to do that. But as a matter of practicality, this is not something that would typically be coming back every 5 years for renewal. It's intended as more of a long-term.
Would that be coming back again before the council for
No, it would
approval?
not. Again, it was intended when it went out, really, and anything of this nature is intended to be more of in a long-term lease arrangement. But again, as a protection to the city, we do have in the final lease documents a protection that the manager can exercise his discretion on behalf of the city and opt not to renew.
But, I mean, after the first 5 years, Mr. Manager, what is going to be the agreement, money-wise and so forth? That's what I'd like to know. And it's going to be
spelled out.
it is going to be a 25-year lease.
Right, it's spelled out, Council, it's spelled out in the terms here that would have a increase by an escalation of 3%. As the solicitor indicated, this has really been bid out as a long-term 25-year lease, but each 5 years, the manager will have the opportunity to opt out of the lease.
To sever the lease.
That's correct.
But you can also have the option to increase it, to keep it going.
No, you can't go beyond the 25.
No, but after 5 years.
After 5, but
The manager can continue that lease.
essentially, it's been bid out as if it's a 25-year lease, but each 5 years, the manager has the opportunity.
If it's not in the best interest of the city.
Yes, not in the best interest of the city, to opt out.
Okay. Now, I just one other question. The cell tower is going to be at the waste treatment plant and the Parks Department on Stedman Street?
On Gorham.
Gorham Street.
Gorham.
Will that have any problems with people's communication with their television or anything like that pertaining to that? And if it does, what will we do?
Well, it shouldn't. There are cell towers all over that have not had, to my knowledge, have not had an impact on people's television covered reception. Obviously, that's all monitored by the Federal Communications Commission, so they would have a way of handling that.
Okay, I've had my say.
Thank you. Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple of questions, too. One was whether this was the subject of a bid process, and I take it from the remarks that it has been. So I think that question's been answered. And the second question related to these options, because I think it's most common to see options be the tenant's option to renew a lease of this type. But as I see it, this is the landlord's option or the city's option. So if we determine that the price has escalated beyond 3% a year, you can say no, and we'd go back out to bid. Is that essentially what would happen?
That's correct.
And then, and the only other question I had was that, I mean, the 3% escalation, I think is fair. I mean, that's usually, if you take the consumer price index over a long enough period of time, that's sort of what you get is 3% a year. But does that occur during the option terms as well? Each year, during the option years, that 3% goes up?
Each year of the contract period, it would be going up.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm satisfied if this is the best deal we got on the bids. I think it's the best we can get, best we can do.
Thank you. Council Dakota, then Council Mercia.
Thank you. I also have a couple questions. I'd like to follow up the solicitor, if I may ask you a question. Just to be clear, we can opt out after 5 years, at any 5-year sequence, without any financial recourse from U.S. Wireless?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then is there, or will there be any wording in the contract to have the towers removed if we prefer to have them removed?
Could you repeat that?
Will there be any wording to allow the city to ask the company to have the towers removed?
Any warning?
Wording.
Oh, wording. Sorry. This great distance
Sorry.
between us. I couldn't hear you. Yes, all of the, we're going to be working with the company, the manager's office, to finalize the lease terms, and we'll look to put those types of protections in there.
Okay, thank you.
Council Mercia?
So, Mr. Manager, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, 1313 Gorham Street is a Parks Department / cemetery? Cemetery.
That's correct.
So there's no public outcry there, right? No.
They haven't said anything.
Councilor Mendoza? And Councilor
Yes,
Elliott.
just a quick question to clarify for me. On the second whereas, it refers to a no-charge contract agreement. Clearly, there's remuneration in this contract, so I was wondering what the distinction is in that terminology? Through the mayor to the solicitor.
Right, it says, whereas it's the intention of the City of Lowell Purchasing Department to enter into a no-charge contract agreement for the leasing of city-owned land at 2 locations of cell towers.
What that's referring to is that there's no cost to us, so it was a bid that, and technically a lease, similar to a contract, that's a no-charge contract, a no-charge lease, where we're getting the revenue and we're not expending any revenue.
So, yeah, so they do all the prep work on the site and et cetera. Okay,
right.
thank you. The other question I have, maybe to the manager, I don't know if they know, or the administration knows, is how high are these towers going to be in each of the sites?
I don't have that, that information in front of me. We can certainly get that information to the council, though, if you like.
Okay, thank you.
It is our intention to work to camouflage these, though, with flagpoles or something of that sort.
Yeah, I mean, I almost thought when I saw the Parks Department that they meant out by the Stedman Street.
Right.
And then reading it more carefully, it's on Gorham Street. Gorham Street, it could be a visible site. I mean, it's open area. And in the case of the wastewater treatment plant, it's probably one of the lowest sites in the city.
Right, that will
So I
be a
think
taller.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering how tall it's going to be. I don't know if there's an artist running of what you'd see from the road, or because maybe it is tucked enough back that we wouldn't notice it, but I tend to doubt that. Yeah, so if you could provide that information to the
Get
council,
that
I'd
information to
appreciate
the
it.
council.
Councilor Elliott?
Mr. Manager, how many bids did we receive? Was it just one, or was it a number of bids that, bidders that participated in this process?
I believe that we received several bids for this.
Okay.
Again, this was done through the purchasing office, and I know that they went through a very rigorous review process of going through the bids, checking them out, going and meeting with the selected vendor at the site with the department heads to go over some of these topics. And I do believe there was more than one.
Okay. No, that's good. It seems
I'll
like...
double check on that. I will tell you that the pricing is quite good compared to some of the later bids of this sort that I've seen.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. That was kind of a follow-up. I know we're getting a monthly fee, but it also says a revenue projection of 20%. Do we have any idea what that may be?
No. At a minimum, it's about $50,000 a year for us for these two. But then,
these two?
And then you add on the additional revenue sharing. That's somewhat unusual. The older cell tower, cell antenna leases that I've seen were roughly the same amount of money going way back, but they started dropping down in value as they became less needed. And generally, there wasn't a revenue sharing of other people who mount on that antenna. So the fact that we're getting that is a favorable term for the city.
How do we validate what their projected revenue, what their revenue stream will be? I mean, how do we check? How do we go to US Wire and say, okay, you're saying, there's 20% of your revenue. How do we know what their revenue is? And I just bring this up because I remember leases at the arena way back when, not to bring up a sore subject, but, one way to find out was to see what their revenue was, to look at their books, and they refused to give, the administration access to that, so we never really knew how to do that, so I'm just curious.
I would think that we'd be entitled to see the lease agreements that they have with these other providers.
Okay. All right. I'll look forward to finding out, getting that information.
And they will, as CFO just reminded me, they will have to turn in income and expense statements for the personal property tax as well.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A good point was brought up. We're not sure what these are going to look like or how tall they're going to be.
Right.
It's, I don't want to open up Pandora's box here, but we ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw with the water tower and people not being aware of the specifications of it. Does it make sense somehow to get some feedback or let people know before we sign things? I don't know if it's putting the cart before the horse here, or, we take a vote that says, let's go enter a contract, but we don't know if they're going to be 75 feet high at the cemetery in people's neighborhoods or on the boulevard. Again, I'm not looking to turn this into a huge problem or discussion, but I think that it's something that we may want to be aware of if we vote to go ahead and do it, and we're not sure what we're voting on, and then we have folks from Centerville and Belvedere coming in saying, hey, listen, you just put a 75-foot tower, cell tower, you know, across from us and over in the cemetery. I just don't want to see that happen either.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to delay this for 1 week until we do get that answer, how high these towers are going to be. That way there, as Councilor Broderick indicated, we're not putting the cart before the horse.
Motion by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Mendonça, that we delay action for 1 week until we get the answer to the question regarding the height of these towers. Any further discussion on the motion? No further discussion? The solicitor just informed me there is a person from U.S. Wireless here who would like to address the council. Do we have any objection to letting him address the council? Hearing none.
Motion to
Sir?
suspend.
Suspend?
Suspend the rules by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Chris Hesse. I'm the president of U.S. Wireless, and I could answer, a lot of these questions in just a minute or two. But first one is I just want height, and then how the contract sort of works with most municipalities in Massachusetts. The way it works is that the city will put a bid out for 20, 25 years. In this case, it's 25 years, and they bid it out. There were 3 bidders. Let me take that back. There were 4 bidders. And so we were one of 4 bidders, and we were the highest bidder by a significant margin. And the way it works is that it's a long-term, as the city solicitor pointed out, it's a long-term agreement the way it was offered in the RFP, the way the city offered it. It starts off at a 5-year term, and then it keeps renewing unless we don't pay or something like that. So every 5 years we have to be in compliance with our payment. We can't be in default, otherwise it doesn't automatically roll. And that's the way it was sort of the way it was offered, and the way it's typically offered, so that people aren't coming back every 5 years. It's like a mortgage. If you're going to get into a mortgage for 20, 30 years or whatever, you want to know what you're getting into, because that's how these things are financed. Is that essentially it's like a mortgage. So it's a long-term agreement. And in terms of the height, my understanding from the ordinances is that tonight was simply a vote to just say that the city recognizes that our bid was the most favorable from a numbers standpoint, but in terms of the height and all the different things, that would go before the zoning and planning review process. So that there's a whole process for that to take fold. And so tonight was just merely, my understanding, at least tonight, was just that the city was voting to say, hey, this was the most favorable contract, and then the city would then begin to look at the lease, but they wouldn't, that the city council would, I guess, has the right through planning and zoning and future meetings to say, hey, we don't like the height, or, we don't like this, we don't like that. So I would ask the city to move forward and approve the RFP letter, the award, but subject to zoning, planning, and city council review in terms of height. To address the height, I want to make a clarification. I met with with planning, I met with the water department, I met with wastewater rather, and the water department, and I met with the cemetery. Cemetery wants to have us at 363 Boston Road. There are about five parcels that comprise the cemetery. So we're way in the southwest corner, far away from any of the neighborhoods. So 363 Boston Road is by the baseball field, which happens to be a part of the cemetery property. So that's where the cemetery commission wanted us to go. They didn't want us to be, in the cemetery. They didn't want us to be near the neighborhood. They wanted us to avoid that whole situation and put us in the far southwest corner. So I just wanted to make that clarification, and that's what the cemetery commission had asked us to do. So 1313, I think, is just sort of the address for the cemetery. It's like a general address, but it's not the actual location of the tower. In terms of the wastewater plant, you know, we're proposing to put what we call a pole that is known as it's stealth in the sense that the antennas are flush against the pole so that the view is minimized. So it's not going to be a big, ugly lattice tower. It's not going to be a tower that has a very wide set of antennas, what they call an array. They're going to be snug to the pole, or what they call flush mount antennas. So but once again, that's something that I think that planning and zoning and that, future city council approval or the city solicitor, various people can see that, we're going to put up a tower that's going to be as visually minimal as possible. And also to address your questions about the revenue, the way it works is you pay the base rent, and that's just the base rent. And then after the base rent, if more tenants come on the tower, and let's just say you start off with tenant number 1, which is one wireless carrier, and if another one comes on, then we're obligated to pay the city additional rent each time we add a tenant to the tower. So it's a revenue event. The city knows about it because the city permits each additional carrier that comes on the tower. So inspectional services knows about it. Planning and zoning, everybody knows about it, so it's a known thing. So there's no secrecy about when additional revenue comes into the city. So that's how it's projected. And right now, we're starting off at $2,100 a month on both sites, and then it increases, by we share 20% of the revenue thereafter with the city. So that's sort of how it was bid, and that's how we bid it, and we bid against, as I said, 3 other bidders. So there were 4 bidders in total.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes City Solicitor O'Connor.
I was just to add on briefly to what has already been said, and again, another way of looking at this is what's before the council is similar to what could be happening with any private property owner, such as the city. And that this phase, as he was indicating, is really just to allow the process to go forward, but there's still more work to be done. And so there was actually a tower by a private property owner in a somewhat similar coverage area, and in this case, if this eventually is approved, then the revenue obviously would be coming to the city for this coverage area.
So, Council Caulfield, yes.
I presented a motion, it was seconded, to delay this for a week isn't going to hurt the project. And I think what Council Broderick indicated, the picture's worth 1,000 words.
But we're not going to have, what this gentleman just said and what the solicitor indicated, we're not going to have the answer to your question in a week. This has to go through a whole process, a whole zoning and planning process.
In the gentleman's deliberation of his approach to the council, he never mentioned the height of these cell towers, not once.
Correct. That hasn't been determined yet. Has not been determined yet.
I think this elected body should have that answer before they vote on this.
And I respect your opinion, but again, it's going through a zoning and planning process. All we're doing is asking or approving that the process continues from this point forward, and then it will come back before the council.
But the water tower in Centerville went before the council, and it went to the zoning board of appeals as well.
Correct. Correct.
Because of the height.
Correct. Council Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It sounds like, can I just see if I have this straight? We vote this, and then if we vote yes to acknowledge them as a high bidder, then it goes to the planning board, zoning board, whatever permitting process is necessary, much like like a Walgreens project. When we voted on the zoning, sent it up there, it went through it's going through the board process now. It still has to come back for a final vote. Coming back?
I don't believe it comes back. It goes to the planning board and zoning board of appeals now to get the necessary approvals.
This will,
but that doesn't come back.
So it does not come back after that. So this is our. Okay, but we have to take this vote in order for them to proceed.
That's correct.
Okay.
Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question to the gentleman. Do you have any indication the height of these cell towers?
In general, they range, and the reason I'll say that they range is that any applicant that comes before the city, just to let you know how the process works in cities and towns, you come in with your proposal for a height, and a certified engineer comes in and says, we're requesting a certain height. So it could be anywhere from, it could be a height that could range from 125 feet to 130 feet or something like that. But it could be, the point is that we have to justify that to the zoning and planning board, and then they can either accept or reject it.
But you don't have that height description now.
Well, I'll tell you why we don't have that now, because you see, the first step in the process is the real estate part. The second part before zoning and planning is the technical part, where we present the technical evidence for the height of the tower, and that's technical because it's the signal strength for a particular carrier. So a carrier could be, T-Mobile, it could be, Clearwire, which is sort of, or it could be, there are a number of carriers, and the next step, so the first step is to establish that the city, that the city's in favor of revenue, the city is in favor of keeping the process going, and then the next step is for us to then, go before planning and zoning, so where they will address these technical issues. But I can't give you a simple answer, because it requires a technical answer from an engineer. U.S. Wireless is a tower real estate company, and then the subtenants are wireless carriers, such as the ones we all know, Verizon, T-Mobile, those kinds of folks. They come in and they present alongside with us. They say, we're requesting this height, and this is why we're requesting it. And the zoning and planning can say, we accept or we reject it, or it's compliant or it's not compliant, and they have a chance to. So the city has there's a thorough process for the city to be able to say yes.
I know.
Or no. Yeah.
I know.
No, that's all I wanted to say, is that the
Now,
city.
what you said, the cell tower could be 130 feet in height, and the waste treatment plant is very low, and there's a large hill for Centerville and so forth. So I'm looking at a cell tower, probably 130 feet in height.
The reason that height is needed there is because there's a hillside there, and there's a dark spot. So.
Councilman Mendoza?
As I recall, we voted to allow some testing on the site, at least not necessarily on Gorham Street, but on the other one. So I assume that there's some results of that have already, or the testing has been completed. So I'm not sure what the results were. I haven't heard anything back.
Right.
So I'm hoping to get that information.
Anyone else? Councilor Martin?
Do you have any other towers in the city? Are you aware of?
Our company does not have any other towers. I'm aware of all the towers and all the antenna sites in the city. I have a complete map of them.
But is there an average height of those? You said there's a range, but
range, yes. They range from 120 feet to 150 feet. Just depends on where you are, excluding the radio towers, which are broadcast towers. But that's an average height. They're different at different parts in the city.
So you don't have many that are lower than 120 feet, and you don't have many that are higher than 150 feet.
Not on average, no.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a motion on, I'm sorry, Councilor Elliott?
So, can I get this straight? We can delay this for a week, but we're still not going to know.
That's correct.
I mean, we're essentially looking at approving a lease. And as Council Martin just asked the speaker, I mean, the towers are between 110 and it could be up to 150. So we know what range we're looking at. So either we're going to proceed with, I think, the revenue that the city needs, 50,000 plus, based upon any of the tenants that may move forward. So and there are zoning regulations in place. And does this have to go to the planning board as well?
Yes, it does.
It does. So regardless of whether it comes back to us and we know a potential height span, it still has to go to these boards. So I don't know. I understand the concern. We want to know what the height will be, but we do have a range, and it's out of our jurisdiction anyway. So it doesn't make sense to me to delay this, knowing that it's just a lease. We're approving a lease. Do we want the money? Do we want them to come and locate, or do we not? So I think we should move forward on this and approve the lease and let those boards that have the jurisdiction, we don't have any jurisdiction over this, we're going to approve the lease or not. I agree, it would be nice to know the height exactly, but we're still not going to know that in a week.
Right.
Correct.
We have, again, a motion on the floor to delay action for 1 week. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça,
Yes.
Councilor Mercia,
No.
Mayor Milonazo,
No.
Councilor Murphy,
No.
Councilor Broderick,
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota,
No.
Councilor Elliott,
No.
Councilor Martin.
No.
Motion is defeated, 3 yeas, 6 nays.
Move to approve the lease.
Move to approve the lease by Council Martin, seconded by Council Elliott. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça,
No.
Councilor Mercia,
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
Councilor Broderick,
No.
Councilor Caulfield.
No.
Councilor Dakota,
Yes.
Councilor Elliott,
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
6 yeas, 3 nays, the motion passes.
Thank you. Getting back to the regular agenda, item number 5. In City Council order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now therefore be it ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. Effective immediately for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary traffic regulations shall be implemented. Section 266-55, parking for handicapped person, is hereby amended by adding the following. Bellevue Street, number 14, easterly side, beginning at a point 130 feet south of southerly curb line of Westford Street, running southerly a distance of 20 feet. Second reading by title. In City Council vote pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Approval by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Murphy. Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça,
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
Councilor Broderick. Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Under subcommittee reports, do we have any subcommittee reports this evening? I know that Councilor Elliott mentioned earlier about the Finance Subcommittee. Okay, moving on, under Wire Inspector, Verizon New England Conduit, River Place, and National Grid Conduit on Lincoln and Maple Streets. Motion to accept the reports and adopt the accompanying order by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
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 Thank you. We have one property damage claim referred to the Law Department by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor of sending it to the Law Department signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it's a vote. Moving on to the motion section. The first motion by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the Public Safety Subcommittee meet regarding public safety issues. Second by Councilor Dakota. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself. It's a request of Councilor Dakota, and I understand that the police chief will be present and any police department personnel to answer questions we might have.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city solicitor. On this particular motion, do we not have to have greater specificity before scheduling a subcommittee?
Right. In order for the public to be able to decide whether to attend or participate, there should be some indication as to what specifically the meeting is about, as opposed to just in general, public safety concerns. So, maybe if
Safety
you could-
concerns and violence in the city. Is that plain enough?
Well, I mean, again,
That's,
there should be, under the new open meeting law, and even prior to that, there should be some general description as to what the meeting is about. And again, in this particular case, just public safety concerns or violence really probably lacks the specificity needed for people to be able to decide whether this is a meeting that they want to attend, whether it's something involves issues that affects them. It doesn't have to be great specificity, but it just has to be, for example, is it regarding a particular section of the city? Is it regarding a particular type of violence? Is it regarding a particular issue of public safety, such as, say, fire alarms or things of that nature? And so maybe if you could just amend it.
Shootings,
so as to-
shootings.
Shootings in a particular section, gang violence in a particular section of the city. There's lots of different things,
right.
but as the counselor had pointed out, it does need, it should have a bit more specificity to it.
Councilor Dakota?
Thank you very much. So this can be elevated crime and the use of guns.
Excuse me?
Elevated crime with the use of guns in the
Yes.
city. Is that specific enough?
Elevated crime and use of guns.
Again, and again, the point of it all really is the more specific any of us can be with whatever it happens to be on the agenda is the goal and objective, just so people can make an educated choice and decision as to deciding, is this something that actually affects me? Is this something that I want to participate in?
Okay, well, some residents of the city have been concerned that their children will be around other children who might have guns, and they asked that I have the city police department come and give a presentation on what the plan is to address that issue.
That is more specific. Councilor Elliott?
I make a motion to amend the original motion, to amend, that the motion read that the police department, police chief, meet with the public safety subcommittee to discuss the strategy or the issue of guns and gun-related number of incidents of violence in the city.
That's right, right.
Second by
right.
Councilor Mercia. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as amended signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Thank you. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the city manager to report on the status of measures taken or to be taken with respect to flooding issues on New York Street. Second by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Caulfield.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. New York Street is a street that's located in the Rosemont neighborhood district. It is the first to be flooded during the spring, and there's at least 5 families down there that have been promised that something would be done. And Mrs. Ahern spoke to me at the Pawtuckaville neighborhood meeting last Monday and asked me if I'd file this motion. I did, and I believe
Two people.
Mr. Ahern and Mrs. Ahern would like to address the council. And last spring, when I was down in that neighborhood during the flood, there was turmoil. And the city has a plan that when Beaver Brook is going to overflow, they more or less put a barrier of soil right down the middle of the street, and these people are subject to serious flooding to save the other homes. But there has to be some solution to their problem. They're taxpayers, they have nice homes, and they're here to address the council, and I'm looking for, and they're looking for ways and means to address that problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. At this point, the chair would recognize those that have registered to speak. Name and address for the clerk, please.
Pardon me? Oh, my name is Diane Ahern. I live on 102 New York Street, and I want to know what, if anything has been done to get the hydrological study done, so we can move on to, to get the dirt levee, which the Army Corps of Engineers has recommended, the dirt levee and the eye wall behind the houses on New York Street on the west banks of the Beaver Brook. And I just want to know, is anything being done? Has anything been done? You know, spring comes really quick. And I know that there's going to be turmoil again if you try to put that dirt levee right up the middle of that road. And it's not only going to be me this time. It's going to be me and my neighbors. None of us want it. Even Rosemont Street, Lafayette Street. We want it done properly, not a Band-Aid. Not with having dirt being put up the middle of some road to take some people and make them have their houses be worth nothing, absolutely nothing. It's already gone down to practically nothing. You know, the value of our homes, no one can sell, that's for sure. And I wouldn't try and sell to anybody. I wouldn't want to give my problem away. Besides, I love my house. And I do like the city of Lowell. I think it's an up-and-coming place. I just want something done, and I'd like to know if you have even addressed it at all. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
I'd be happy to get a more detailed status report. I can tell you that we've been working through the Congresswoman's office and the Corps of Engineers to try to get the necessary appropriation of funds through the federal government to do the necessary study work and design work for this. They did, as you know, we did ask the Army Corps of Engineers to do a study of the area. They did come back with a couple of different proposals regarding the possibility of some type of flood control device behind your houses. The cost was somewhere between $1 and $2 million. They also suggested that any study that look at this also look at the possibility of a no-build strategy with other options to purchase the properties. Something along those lines. One of the issues certainly that they have to look at is what type of impact a flood control device has upon other property owners and along the Beaver Brook going north. So that certainly is one aspect of this. With regards to the berm that's placed in the middle of the road, I think it's important to, you know, that a city, really any governmental entity, actually takes those types of measures really on a, there is no legal obligation to do that, to do anything. Generally speaking, though, communities try to save as many properties as they can from damage by sandbagging, by berms, or something of that sort. The problem with that particular area, and again, this can be more detailed in a report to the council. The problem with the particular area that you're at is to put a berm or some type of flood control device behind your properties. The area is wet. It's a wetland. It's a floodplain. It's designed to flood by nature. God intended it to flood. And that's why you're limited to putting a device back there. And there are engineering aspects of putting some type of device, particularly at the end of New York, right on Beaver Brook, because of the home that's right there at the end of the road, which has the swimming pool right there. And is there a swimming pool right there? No? Which property am I thinking of back that way? Okay, well, leave that out then. I thought there was another. I thought there was another one down there. But anyway, there's a limit to putting an earthen structure there because of the slope that would be needed. Again, I'm not an engineer, but this is what I've been advised. The slope that would be needed to build up that berm would actually have to extend into the house itself. So we're certainly continuing to move forward to see what options are out there and what can be done. Certainly it's within the realm of possibility to see if there is flooding, that we just won't put that berm down the center of the road if that's, you know, the neighborhood's objection, if they object to that.
Okay, Don?
My name is Don Hearn, and I live at 102 New York Street, which happens to be right on Beaver Brook. And this is not the first time I've been here, you know, and every time about this year I come here to plead this case to everybody, you know. And I've gone through the Army Corps of Engineers, and the houses that are too close to the berm, are too close to the brook, are specifically supposed to have an eye wall, which doesn't take up all that much room. The berms and so on and so forth go behind us. The elevations in the back part of that area, I mean, it's lowest right where it floods. And all the elevations that lead up towards Drake are much higher. There's almost a hill at the end of it. I can't even imagine that could be backed up that way. It seems to me that it's impossible. But the hydrological study would show that. The prints that I have also have a hydrological study for 50 years and 100 with it. And they say that quite reasonably you could do a 50-year berm there, which is like a 15-foot or whatever. Behind my house would be something like a 50-foot one berm. But to raise up the berm along the rest of the Beaver Brook that leads out towards Martin Street and so on and so forth is about 15 foot aside from that. But the place beside my house and the house kitty corner to mine that also was on the brook is all covered by an eye wall as they have on the other side. Now, when the Army Corps of Engineers put that in 1941, that wasn't a floodplain. That floodplain is gone. But their floodplain is now our floodplain. You know, now we own all the floodplain down there, which I don't think is that fair. Now, it's my understanding that the Army Corps of Engineers are supposed to do a berm on this side, on the west side. But the war being started, according to an old timer that I talked to, they stopped doing that, and they didn't do it. Now, I'm trying to get in touch with the Army Corps of Engineers to see if, in fact, they did have plans to put up a berm down there. I don't think you can make a judgment insofar as what that effect it would have until you do one of these studies, or at least that the Army Corps of Engineers would know better than us or whatever, you know, because they take precedence over this. I'm looking for somebody to take some kind of action to get that hydrological study done, you know, because what ends up happening is like it's a catch-22. Can't do anything because we haven't got a hydrological study. But doesn't seem like anybody's doing a hydrological study. And it, you know, my life just goes like 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. And it's still just like it was in 2006 for me, you know? Although you get pretty upset about it, you know? You get really upset, and every time it's April and May, Happy Mother's Day, you know, it could be a disaster for us. And I don't like living like that, you know. I do like it down there. I like Lowell, you know. I can't imagine, you know, I can't imagine living actually anyplace else. I really enjoy living where I live. It's great. I love living by that brook. The unfortunate part is there's once or twice in the year where I don't love living by that brook, you know. And I think this situation can be remedied. That's another thing. I don't believe that this is one of those, oh, you can't do that and stuff situations. I believe the Army Corps and the Engineers has precedent over anything that Drake would say, or so on and so forth, if they did that study. And I'm not looking to endanger anybody else, that's for sure. I'm absolutely not. Any more than the people on the other side of that brook are looking to endanger me. But they have a wall up, and you're helping fortify that wall. I want to tell you something. That kind of galls me in a little bit. You know, here we are over on this side swimming, you know, deck, dock, and they're getting their wall rebuilt, more or less, or buffeted up or something, just to keep them in the, out of the floodplain, you know. But that doesn't help us, you know. It really gets exacerbating. Just keep coming here and not having anything done. You know what I mean? And everything's fine and everything goes along, and then pretty soon everybody forgets about it. I sent letters to Nikki Songus. I've sent her the blueprints for the Army Corps of Engineers study, and I've sent them all to Carrie, to Brown, and again to Nikki again, you know? But you know what? I don't hear anything, you know? It gets quiet.
Mr. Manager?
Well, I think, Mr. Hearn, that as you point out, the Army Corps of Engineers does have jurisdiction in this area, and for every member of Congress, some more than others, there are a handful of projects of this sort that they're all trying to get on the list. So each year, the Corps of Engineers gets several thousand requests for hydrological studies or projects of this sort. And that's what we're up against. And many of these projects that we're up against have similar price tags, but have an impact on a much larger number of property owners. And so those, in their calculations, they're going to prioritize. But that doesn't stop us from continuing to push forward to have this done. And that's what we have been doing, and that's what we will continue to do.
Well, I don't see any results of anybody pushing anything forward, you know? And also, I've just recently learned that a small township in New York, Little Falls, New York, had a very similar situation. 06 they had a flood, 07, and they can show repeated incidences and repeated events in their area. I haven't all their houses lifted and that floodplain, that the government said that if it's, the federal government's paying for that, it would be so much cheaper to just do that levee and the eye wall than it would do any of that in that neighborhood, because there's over 200 and something houses there, you know, and many of them do get affected.
We'll certainly get a formal report to the council on where this stands and continue to stay on top of it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and that's, I don't know, I just had to say something, at least, again. Thank you.
Mr. Belay? If it's okay with my colleagues?
Yes, I apologize, Mr. Mayor. I didn't register to vote, but I'm not going to repeat everything that Mr. O'Hearn said. But Mr. Manager, I believe that your phone call, Mr. Manager, down to Lawrence last year to ask the Lawrence city officials to lower the dam did help alleviate some of the backwater on Beaverbrook. And I'm just wondering if, is there a system that we have made or a plan working with Lawrence in the event to ask the city, to ask Anelda to lower that dam prior to a high water event to keep the water from backing up into the Concord and to the Beaverbrook area?
Well, we have a relationship with the city of Lawrence. We have a relationship with L. My call last year was not to the city of Lawrence. My call was to the L Corporation.
Yes.
And they indicated that the water at that the flashboard system, the inflatable system that they have in Lawrence, was being brought down. I appreciate you giving me credit, but it wasn't me. I mean, I made the call to see what the status was, and they were bringing it down because the water had gotten to a certain height. They also indicated that they were doing that down there because of the requirements that they needed to control in that area, but that the elevations there and the elevations in Lowell were so different that it wasn't really going to have an impact on Lowell. But they were bringing it down because of the situation in Lawrence, not in Lowell.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I apologize for...
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Last motion of the evening is by Mayor Milonazo. Do you mind if I do it from the podium? City Council requests the city manager and the city work with and assist the Armenian community in the erecting of a monument in the City Hall Plaza area. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. I was contacted by 3 representatives of the Armenian community, and they would like to begin the process as I know former Mayor Caulfield worked with the Portuguese community last year and went through the same process. So I'm just looking to get this process underway at their request in order to begin planning to put a monument in City Hall Plaza. So that's the gist of the motion. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Armenian community has contributed immensely to our city, state, and country for decades. But I also did receive a call from the Lithuanian community who also would like to place a monument in City Hall. So as soon as they get back to me with that information, I'll bring that forward as well.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Anything else? I do have, before I recognize Councilor Broderick, let me just say that last Tuesday we did see the Mayor's Art Challenge 3-minute video, and as of today, you can actually vote, and there are now 16 communities that have presented their video presentation. So I'm going to give the link for our viewing audience and for my colleagues, and you can vote, I guess, as often as you want, and it's youtube.com/Mayor's Arts Challenge. That's youtube.com/Mayor's Arts Challenge, and it's not case sensitive, so that is the link that you go to in order to vote. So please vote early and often. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to let the public know we are scheduling a personnel subcommittee meeting for Tuesday, the 26th at 5:30 to begin discussing the goals and objectives, setting the goals and objectives. I think that was referred to the personnel subcommittee.
Thank you, Councilor Broderick.
And is there a possibility of putting a link on the website to that video? Perhaps
Yes.
it might make
Yes,
it
that's a
easier
good
for folks
idea.
at home.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any, Councilor Mendoza?
Yes, just for the viewing public, in our packet, we had the dedication of the Frank J. Lyons Memorial Park, which will occur on Saturday, October 16th at 10 a.m. I'm sure the veterans involved would appreciate the general public attending as well.
10 o'clock, yes, thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn by Councilor Mercy, second by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote.